Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Blazor website tutorial. In this video, we're going to be covering authorization and authentication. So this is going to teach you how to set up your database to store user accounts. So we're just going to use the default user account, which has, username, email, password, all that other stuff. Obviously, it's all handled for you, all the password hashing and all the security. So you just have to basically implement it and add the pages so that someone can log in. Then obviously we're adding default pages. If you want to, you can look into how to add your own custom login pages and, creating your profile and all that lot. But we're just going to have a really simple register with email and password and then being able to log in. And then when you're logged in, we can obviously authorize access to pages and such. So we can say, show you your books, for example, when we add the books, right? We can have our own books and look at other people's, and then maybe books are private to certain users. We'll look into all that, but this video is going to be quite simple. Let's get into it. But of course, first I've got to thank my patrons. Special thanks to Beardodie, Francisco Diaz, Rack, Eurosletta, Hades Orko, Art Farrell, and Marie Baldwin. If anyone else is able to help support the channel monetarily, link to my Patreon is down below. If not, there are also links down below to other social media such as Twitch, Twitter, and Discord, as well as our website. If you could help us out by following on any of those or creating a free account over at our website, it'd be greatly appreciated. Now let's get to the video. So as always, if you want access to the source code, you can go to my GitHub and get access to it there under the Blazor tutorial series repository or whatever I called it. And this is the code we're currently working with. Just the same as last video. But now what we want to do is we want to add authorization and authentication. I could sit here and just do all the code changes myself, but honestly, this is just a copy-paste job, and you can get access to this code at the end. I'm just going to basically go through and explain everything. The actual code I'm going to be using is supplied by Microsoft, the .NET team themselves. When you actually set up a Blazor project, you can add authorization and authentication with it, and I didn't realize that actually, so we could have saved some time by doing that by default, but I think it actually is better to add it now, and we can add it to what we've already got. We can explain what it does rather than just have it in the template by default. Okay, let's get into that. So over in our startup, right after we add the database context to our services, we actually want to add identity too. So identity is what we're going to be using to actually do the authentication. So we're going to say services.add default identity. Okay, this is all, as I said, default stuff, so we can actually modify this later to add more data to a user's account. Maybe you want to store a display name. Currently you have a username, but a username is their email that they log in with, so maybe they want an actual display name separate to that. But anyway, we're going to be using identity user, which is effectively the base user kind, and then you can actually inherit this and make your own types. For now, we're just going to use this and it's fine. If we ever make modifications later, which we are going to, then I'll show you how to do that. Default identity is actually in a Nugget package we don't have. So if we go to tutorial web, manage Nugget packages, we want to add identity.ui. Give it a second. Microsoft ASP.NET Core identity.ui. Install this. Okay. I accept. Also, guys, I'm using ASP.NET Core 3.1.1. So if you want to go and get the latest version, then you can. Now I have everything already up to date in here anyway. If I select all, include pre-release, everything is up to date. Actually, wait, no it isn't. If I take out this and refresh, these two packages also have to be updated. Or they don't have to be, but there are new versions, so why not get them while we're here? It'll take a second. And now they're done. Usually whenever I do packages, I always go here and save because the CSproj file is a bit late sometimes. But anyway, identity user, we've got some options. So the options, sign in, require confirmed account. So basically, as you see here, gets or sets a flag indicating whether the user confirmation account is required. It basically just means, does the account have to be confirmed before you actually log in as it? Now, I'm actually just going to leave this off. I don't care. I'm not going to make the users confirm their accounts, though if you want to, you can set that to true. It's up to you. And then on this, we actually want to add entity framework stores. And then this is basically telling it what kind of DB context, where is it stored, essentially. And we're saying it's stored in our library context, for now at least, okay? That's where it's stored. Then we're going to add Razor pages that we've got. We're going to add server-side Blazor, which we've got. And then we've got to actually add the authentication state provider, which is what actually handles the logic for us being logged in. So it'll be able to be used in pages as well, so that we can say, show this content if the user's logged in, but don't show this, or show this only if they're not logged in. So obviously the login button at the top, we only want to show login if they're not logged in. And then when they are logged in, we want to show a logout button, and we want to show a register button when they're not logged in, but we don't want to show it at all when they are logged in. So that kind of stuff needs to be managed by the authentication state provider. So we need to say services.add scoped, the authentication state provider, which is the abstract type, and the actual implementation we're going to be using is the server state provider. There you go, server authentication state provider. Okay, so now we've added that. We'll go down to configure, and I think there's a few things we need to add here. So we can add one thing which we don't have but is in this example, which is the use database. Use database. Now we're not going to bother doing that, actually. It's just a warning page thing that we can add, I guess. But the thing we actually do need is down here. We need to say app.use authentication, and then app.use authorization. Now make sure you get the two in this order as well, because as far as I'm aware, if you do it the other way around, it doesn't actually work. You need it in this order, okay? So remember, authentication is handling logging in and, like, you know, keeping track of who you are on the website, and authorization is what handles allowing you to do stuff based on your authorization. I think that's the reason it has to be that way around. And we actually get some default UI given with this logging in page, like the default UI, and for that we have to actually add endpoints dot map controllers, because we're going to be using like MVC controllers, so that needs to exist. And now that that does, we're done with the startup. Now over in app.razor, this is this is our program, right? This is our app, because as you see here, this uses program to start up essentially, and this is the main layout being our actual page. And then when we go to a page that isn't found, it just says there's nothing at this address. We need to put this all inside the cascading authentication state, okay? Let's cut the closing and put it at the bottom. So this basically says now, anything inside of this has access to the authentication state, meaning our website, any page we go to, everything has access to the authentication state, which is what we want. We want everything to be able to do stuff based on whether we're logged in or not, okay? That's it for the app file. I'm actually going to copy paste main layout into here, because we're going to need to add one more component to this shared, which is going to be the login display. Okay, so we have login display, and we're actually going to have it here. So on the top, next to the about, or before the about, we're going to have the login display. Okay, so there we go. That's a login display. Now we're going to go over to it because it's empty. Oh, it's not empty actually, sorry, because I copy pasted this. But the login display, we're actually going to have the authorized view. So an authorized view basically says, inside here, we can have different components. I'm going to show you the two. So we're going to have, well, there's actually three. There's authorized, which we're going to be using. And then there's not authorized, so not authorized. There's actually also authorizing, so, authorizing. And obviously inside here, you can put components to render. You can put HTML and JavaScript. Well, you can do JavaScript technically, but yeah, you have HTML to run and C# to run. How it works is authorized. Anything in here is essentially effectively rendered when you are logged in. This is when you're not logged in, and this is when you are logging in. Now, you might not find much of a use of authorizing, and I haven't so far. Maybe there is a good use that I'm missing. Maybe someone can tell me down below. But anyway, we want to show different things on the login display based on whether you are logged in or not logged in, okay? Now, I'm actually just going to copy and paste what they have in the template. This is the actual template you get if you selected that in creation. So what it does is, says if authorized, have an A, which is a link, that when you click on it, you go to this URL, you go to localhost /identity/account manage, okay? And then it says, well, the actual link button itself that says hello person, right? So when you click on your name when you're logged in, it takes you to your account manage page, okay? That's where you can, you know, change your password and all that lot, right? Then it also has a form, which is I don't actually know why it's a form. I mean, this is some MVC stuff. So this actual is a form that you post. There's no data on it. It's a form with no input. It's just a submit button. And when you submit, it does a post request to identity account logout, which will log you out. Okay, that's pretty obvious. And then when we're not authorized, we have two different buttons, register and login, that take you to the register page and the login page. Okay, that's it for the login display. Okay, and then now we can actually run the project. The only problem is that when we actually try to go create an account, it won't be able to create it in our database because our database needs to have a migration to actually be able to do the update. We'll actually see. So we've got register and login now as well as about. So we'll go register. And we actually need to create something else, sorry. Yeah, we didn't add something else. Let me go add that now. We're going to create a new folder in web. We're going to add the folder called areas. And then inside areas, we have another folder called identity. Okay, And inside identity, we have identity related pages. So we'll have pages. Okay, and then inside pages, we have two. We have account and shared. This is just the same structure they use, so I'm sticking with that. So it's familiar if people, so let's say some people come to the series and they've already gone with the template, then it'll be the same as their template. So it makes sense. Okay, so in account is where we're going to have a logout page. This is the thing that actually, when you click the logout button, this code is ran. Okay, so in here we want to add a new CS/HTML file. So we're going to add a new item, a CS/HTML. I mean, I can just create it and make it a .cs/HTML. Let's just go with that. It's probably faster. Okay, add new class. It's going to be logout.cs/HTML, keeping the naming all the same so that it's essentially when we use it. So here's the code. So it's we don't need to worry about all these different attributes. I mean, it's important that we have them, but I'm not going to waste time explaining how it works. But essentially, we're injecting the sign-in manager of type identity user. And as you see here, when we post, so this is when we click, if you actually go back to the login display, when we click log out, we do a post to this logout. Okay, that basically means when we click the logout button, this code is ran, which says sign-in manager. Basically, if we are signed in, sign out. That's all it's saying, right? Simple. When we click the logout button, we do that. And then we also have in shared login partial. Not quite sure why it's got an underscore before it, but you know, it's just the way they've done it in the template. So login partial.cs/HTML. Okay, and then we'll have a quick run through this code, but I'm just going to copy paste it again from the template. And then in shared, we're going to create a new class, the login partial.cs/HTML in the template. This is the thing we actually got the error about, so I'm just going to copy paste that in here. You can quickly read through it. It's about basically rendering something based on whether we're signed in or not signed in. Okay. You can, as I said, if you want to actually get access to this, the way you do it, well, you can obviously look at the code in my GitHub repository, but if you want to mess around with the actual template, just create a new project. Make sure you create a new Blazor app somewhere. Doesn't really matter. Oh, I don't want to actually close my solution. But basically, there is a button on the right that says identity or authentication or something. You can click change and then click store like user details, basically. There's 4 different options. And by default, it's on none, but then you want to change it to having user accounts, okay? That's if you want to get the template. So I'm now in the library context, and I just thought about it for a minute, and I think we should actually make our custom class that we're going to store users as, because rather than using the built-in identity user, we actually want to, for example, have books bound to our profiles, right? We're going to have profiles, but I don't think a profile should be the same as this. Profile should be their own table in the database, because your actual identity user is about your personal details like your password and your email, whereas your profile is more about your public data like your display name and your progress on stuff and whatever else. So we're going to tie books to profiles, and we're going to tie profiles to app user accounts. So we're actually going to make a new model. So we've got models books, and then in models, I'm not going to make a folder for this one. I'm just going to make a class and just call it app user. Okay, and an app user inherits, so a public class app user inherits identity user. Okay, and to be honest, that's all we're going to do for now, right? We're going to inherit it. We're not going to put anything else on there. I mean, to be honest, actually, no, we'll make profiles, but we're not actually going to put anything in profiles now. Okay, we're just going to make profile. So an app user has a profile. Okay, which means I need to make folder profiles. We'll make a new model profile, and a profile is an entity. We don't inherit the other one from entity because it's slightly different, but a profile currently has nothing, right? It's just a profile is just a thing. And then over here we have app user, which has a profile. So we're going to say we have a public profile get set. Okay, we also need to have a profile ID. So we have a public int profile ID. And we need to say the key for the profile is the profile ID. So we have to say foreign key and then the string profile ID, and it has to match this, okay? And the point is, when we are in the database, in the app user, we're going to store a profile ID. We don't actually store a profile because, all that data is in a different table. But when we want to get the profile for an app user, we say we get the profile by the foreign key profile ID, which is this, okay? So it's smart enough to figure all that stuff out. So now that we've made app user, we're going to come back to here, which is the library context. We're going to change the DB context to now use something else. We're using the identity DB context. Okay, that's going to ask us to install package ASP.NET Core Identity Entity Framework Core. We're going to go for it. Now we have it. We have to say the type is app user, and it's going to allow it because app user inherits from identity user. Okay, and then this is happy now, so it's going to use that as the identity store. So now that we've got an app user that has a profile, when we eventually add profile information, such as, well, we can tie profiles, as I said, to books you make, we can then, when you log in and go to a certain page, we can load all the books for you. And if someone else creates books, they get their page, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's give it a go. We have to go to our Git, and we have to run this again. Okay, so we're going to add that migration, and I'm going to go and open up the migrations folder. So we've got the initial create, which was from last time when we set up the database. So the build failed, so I'm going to have to change the Blazor tutorial.dal to 2.1, and then if I go to core, I have to change it to 2.1 as well. Let me just make sure that the core NuGet packages are all updated, and give it a second. If it's not going to find any, I think it might be fine anyway. I'm just going to rebuild. Okay, apparently core web as well. Core web needs to be 2.1. Okay, now I'm going to clean. Reference bags rightly in the project, see a different version. Okay, so ASP.NET Core Identity Framework Core. Let's change this to 3.1.1. And that should go away. Nope, something else. It's 3.1. I mean, these should all be on 3.1.1 because that's the newest version of .NET Core. Okay, does this rebuild successfully now? I think it does. It does. Okay. Now we can try and add the migration one more time. Start the build. The build should succeed because it just succeeded when we did it. Build succeeded. Done. Okay. Added identity users. So now we've got the table for all this stuff it needs. So we've got profiles, ASP.NET roles, role claims, ASP.NET users, all these things that come with it, right? There's actually quite a bit. Now, that's all going to happen in this migration. So now we just need to update. So to do update, we go back to here. And instead of migrations add, we're going to say database update run. This is going to run. When it says done and OK and assume it all works, then we can actually test this live. It succeeded. Done. Okay. That's very promising. Now let's give it a run and see what happens. Okay, let's go to register. I'm going to do the email and the password. I'm just going to go with ABCDEF123 hashtag ABCDEF123 hashtag. I'm going to register. Oh, the DB set for identity user is not included in the model for the context. That's my bad. Let's go back to the context. We're going to add public DB set, and then what is it we want to add? We wanted to add app user users. Okay, and we also actually want to add profiles. Public DB set profile profiles, like so. We get this warning, but it doesn't actually seem to do anything. To make the current member override the implementation, add the override keyword. Public override DB set. There we go. Okay, we actually have to run one more migration, but to be honest, it's fine. I'm just going to go back and just quick say add identity user. I'll just say like fixed app user. Okay. Then it's going to do the build, and I'll get back to you once I've run the migration. Now, before we actually run it, we need to change some stuff in here. So we've done the migration. Now we need to actually say, because we've made our own custom type of app user, we have to actually say it's an app user. And we have to also add one other thing to dependency injection, which is the user manager of user manager of type app user. And then down here, we can't use the default. Wait, we need to add parentheses. Okay, we can't use the default authentication state provider because that doesn't work with our own custom type. But luckily enough, Blazor actually gives us this file. So it's on my, wait, I need to actually change this namespace. This is obviously from the template that we get. So Blazor tutorial.web, and then it's Blazor tutorial web areas dot identity. Yeah, there we go. Okay, And this allows us to pass in any TUser, where TUser is a class, that's fine. So if we actually use this now, it's the revalidating, oops, not server, it's revalidating identity, authentication state provider. And then of type, at the end of type app user. Okay, that's happy. Now, it might seem like we can run it, but there's one more thing, which is actually somewhere in the, let's go to, areas, identity pages. Notice how these use a sign-in manager of identity user. We actually want app user, okay. Now, I'm not going to bother, actually, let's do it. Let's take this and then add the using for it. So, at using Blazor tutorial this. Okay, so now we've got the app user. And then we go to the shared login partial, which is also for app user. Okay, let's cut this. Let's do the app using for it. So we're basically just saying, hey, instead of using the built-in identity user, please use our own custom type. Okay, give it a minute. It works now. I think that should be everything. I don't think there's any other like related things that use this. So if we run it, let's see what happens. Okay, so put in the details, I'm going to register and see what happens. So once it's registered, you'll notice now I'm actually logged in. Hello, welcome to your new app. I'm logged in. Hello is my user. I can actually log out and log in again. And now if I go to log in and I put in the password ABCDEF123 hashtag, it logs me in. Okay, so there we go. We've actually created authorization. I'm logged in. One little thing I had to add though, I had this problem. If you go to app user, when an app user is made, it expects a profile, but because profile is null, it actually gives us an error. So you have to say new profile. And what that means is whenever an app user is made, it then initializes profile to be a new profile. So we also actually have a profile made to go with our account. So it's not like every time we load this, we get a new profile. It just means when it's first made, it's a new profile, okay? That's what it uses if there is no profile. So yeah, this works. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. The link to get all this code's down below. I'm sure you guys want access to it because a lot of it is just copy pasting, or equally you could also make a template and then copy from there. It's up to you. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching and goodbye.